Welcome back to the table. I'm Kim Ganassin, and it's a special day today. It's our first video in a series about the culture of 5D. So very different than the culture of 3D. And we need to start practicing the culture of 5D in order to become the type of being that can be lucid in a 5D context, right? Your 5D consciousness and your 5D vibration and behavior make it possible for you to exist in a 5D context. So what that means is if you want to still see yourself as a 3D being, but start to become lucid in a 5D context, and in fact to build that 5D context, you have to start vibrating like it now. So we're going to do this from 3D consciousness. We're going to expand and we're going to build within ourselves a vibration of 5D so that we can open right up to a 5D context and create it the way that we want to. Okay? So I want to say this, timelessness. Really what I mean by that is the lack of linear time. Linear time is a 3D earthly thing, okay? But you are a complete spectrum of consciousness all the time. Even though you think you're just a 3D linear time trapped individual, you're not. You're a total spectrum of consciousness, 4D, 5D, everything else, all the way up to your source. And that's a wonderful thing. You already are built as an eternal being. And so even though the cultures are very different between 3D and 5D, you're going to fit right in if it's what you want to do. Okay? So let's have a look at just 3 important aspects of linear time and the culture and the consciousness that we have as linear time-based beings and a linear time-based group of people who have created culture based on linear time. Okay? These things that I'm going to bring up basically just need to be dropped. Okay? You don't need to carry this with you to 5D, and in fact it's going to hold you back from going to 5D at all. So let's have a quick look at what these things are. Okay. Number 1, biggest cultural problem as far as I'm concerned right now on the earth in linear time, and that is the valuation of human beings based on linear time frames, right? Time frames in your linear time life, your lifetime, or stations on a linear time scale. And by that I mean, okay, by that I mean you are very much valuated by the rest of society based on a particular age that you are, or a frame of ages, you know what I mean, like 20s, 30s, 40s, whatever. That is something that is not transferable to 5D. Okay, the identification with age and the valuation of you as an individual with age, that's all going to end. Okay? So what that means is if you're, let's say you're a woman. If you're a woman and society is deciding when on your timeline, your lifeline, you are most valuable, I'm going to take a guess that it might be in your 20s. Why? Because when you're in your 20s, you're already the age of consent. You are at the peak of your fertility. You are still young enough that there are decades of your life that you're going to still be valuable during those decades, and so you are worth investing in. Okay, so the 20s are really, unfortunately, seen as a high point for women, and we're going to leave that alone. We're going to leave that behind, because you are ageless and timeless in 5D, and so you don't have to worry that the minute you turn 30 your stock's going down. Okay? Gentlemen here, I'm going to guess your highest valuated time frame in your life might be your 30s and 40s, right? By the time you hit 30, maybe you've gotten that college degree, maybe you've developed some impulse control that you might not have had when you were 22 or 18, right? Maybe you've gotten some training, maybe you've got a good job, maybe you're starting to build a nest egg, maybe you've got some wisdom going on, you still look good, and so our society tends to really like you in your 30s and maybe even in your 40s, okay? Now, that's just the beginning of how we start valuating each other based on our age, okay? Now, also based on our age, we tend to be commoditized, right? We are commodities. A very, very horrible and dehumanizing fact that in our commercial world, your age is synonymous with a dollar value, okay? Depending on which, sub-demographic you're a part of, you might be talked about in, the boardroom about in terms of your dollar value. I can't even hardly say those words anymore. I spend so much time in 5D and in 4D where it's all about who you are as a vibrational being. It's all about your heart. It's all about you. There's nothing valuable that goes from the 3D linear time commoditization culture. Nothing from that makes it past 3D. 4D has nothing to do with that. 5D has nothing to do with that. And thank goodness for it, because it's really vulgar and dehumanizing, and we're moving well beyond that. Let me just leave that where it is, because this discussion can go very, very, very far out, okay? And we don't need to do that, because what we're talking about right now is what to let go of. So your homework on this particular point is to make sure that when you look in the mirror, you see a whole person, okay? You don't see someone who is commoditized based on their age or any other type of vulgar category that they want to put you in based on linear time, okay? Leave it alone. Don't do it to other people. See other people as eternal. See yourself as eternal. See yourself as a complete spectrum. See others as their complete spectrum. And whether or not they act like they're aware that they're a complete spectrum, that should not change your behavior towards them. Okay? This is how to go to 5D. In 5D, your age doesn't matter. In 5D, anybody else's time frames don't matter. It just does not matter in 5D. So we're going to let that go. Okay? Next. Okay, the next one is in 3D with linear time. It allows us to experience things as a process, right? Everything is a process. Life itself and the perpetuation of life is a process. Growth is a process. Learning is a process. Maturation is a process, and dying is a process, okay? So we've chosen this linear time sort of orientation for 3D Earth so that we can observe processes one step at a time. That is an intentional thing that we've chosen, okay? The downside in our culture to having the ability to really rely on process is, okay, well, it hasn't happened yet. We think it's going to happen, but it hasn't happened yet, so we're going to avoid it until it happens, okay? Avoidance. Avoidance of responsibility, avoidance of work, avoidance of things that we don't want to deal with, right? We can say, okay, well, there's a process in front of us, so we're not going to deal with it because we want to stay focused on whatever else is going on at this step in the process. Well, the only thing is, this step in the process is the present. This point in the process is the present moment. I don't know very many people who are actually very good at being committed to this point in the process. Mostly, people are avoiding this step in the process. So all the process is really doing is allowing you to avoid where you're at right now by being ahead of yourself. And it's allowing you to avoid the future by saying, well, there's a whole process in between and I don't have to really actually deal with the inevitable at the end of the process. So we use process very often to avoid things, okay? Now, I've had people tell me, Kim, you know, this is not really working for me because it's about evolution. It's about constant evolution. And here in my 3D life, it's really about constant processing, you know? I need to process in order to grow. Okay, I get it. The only problem with that is that right now we are at a special time where the window to a tremendous evolutionary leap to 5D is open, okay? And what is happening is you can't be stuck in process because process is based upon how you see your life in 3D, right? Your process is relevant to your life here. And unfortunately, it often involves our identity. We often are our identity sort of confused. And that's why we take process, right? That's why we rely upon process and say, I'm in process and I'm growing. I'm not there yet. I don't know when I'll be there, but I'm in process, right? And we think in terms of ourselves as incomplete until we have completed a process. That's a problem. We are complete right now. So you might be in process in relation to your 3D issues in life, okay? Be they, you know, forgiveness or healing or learning, anything like that. It's relevant to your 3D life, but it's not relevant to where we're going in 5D. Okay? So we need to make sure that we are ready to literally drop our process orientation. You don't need it. It's only relevant in 3D. It is utterly irrelevant everywhere else. So if you want to evolve and become that being that is 5D compatible, you have to drop the irrelevant and you have to allow yourself to be whole in the moment and let the processing go. Just be whole now, okay? Then you will be 5D compatible. All right, one more. Okay. I wore a watch today on purpose so that I could sit here and remind you how much we are owned by the clock. We are owned by the clock. I am owned by the calendar, okay? If I haven't got enough done this week, boy, it throws everything off for the next week, and all of a sudden I've decided to myself that the time I've wasted is actually more important than I am. It gets that bad. It really does. It gets that bad. Well, I want to make sure to get this point across, okay? If the clock and the calendar are motivating you, they're pushing you around, they're breathing down your neck like a dragon, then maybe you've lost touch with what your natural motivators are, okay? In 3D, time, linear time, is a default motivator for many, many of us, okay? But in 5D, where there's no linear time and it's just you and you in eternity trying to figure out what to do next because you have all choices, all options open to you. You're going to have to feel yourself, and you're going to have to feel your natural inspiration, your natural drives, your natural curiosity, all of that stuff. So what you want to make sure that you leave behind in 3D is the idea that time is there to tell you who you are, where you are in your process, and what everybody else thinks about you. That's not relevant in 5D. That's not the culture of 5D at all. In 5D, you are your authentic you. You make authentic choices based on authentic drives, okay? And you do it with complete freedom. You do it with love for yourself, and you do it with love for others and love for the all. Get what I mean? I can't wait to see how we all relate to each other in 5D. I know that so many of my friends here, I know we're all going to go to 5D together. I'm the channel in the group. They don't necessarily know what I do about how 5D works, and I can't wait to see how they function in 5D as lucid beings. It's going to be very interesting, and we're all going to have to learn about each other so that we can work together in a culture that allows each of us to be authentic and eternal all the time. All right? I want to thank you for being here. We're going to go on to the next video about timeless identity, and I want you to leave your questions in your comments. I'm more than happy to read them and get discussions going, maybe even plan other videos based on your questions and comments, okay? Take care. Thanks again.